When I first encountered free market anarchists here on YouTube, it was unusual to find anyone even remotely familiar with traditional anarchist voices. One of my early mentions of Mikhail Bakunin garnered this rather funny response. Check out the vid.
Backing into you, has a tendency to think of things from a socialist perspective. Gee, I wonder why. He lived in Soviet Russia. He was looking to make the system he lived under work without too grand of a change, without causing bloody revolutions.
Okay, that's funny. I don't care who you are. But it highlights something I've seen again and again, and it's this propensity to fake the funk, to pretend you know about a subject you really don't know much about. And more recently, YouTube user Thorsmitersaw falls into this category. Let's go ahead and roll the clip.
Benjamin Tucker finds the anti-proprietarian strands of anarchists to be the usurpers of the doctrine and not the other way around. It seems clear as a Colorado sky that he considers them to be the corruption of anarchist thought, the foreign invasion of ideas, and unwanted by an American individualist.
Seriously? Now I can only conclude that Thorsmitersaw has never read the anarchists he claims to descend from. I'm not going to try to be exhaustive here, but let me make a few general claims before I dive into this. Anarchists have always been opposed to capitalism. Being anti-statist is not sufficient to be an anarchist, as we have always been opposed to hierarchy. We're not Marxist. We've always tended to look at society as a whole and the numerous forms of exploitation and oppression that take place, and we seek to end those forms of tyranny. I'm not an individualist, but I do count them squarely in the camp of the libertarian left. They were categorically opposed to non-labor forms of income, rent, interest, and profits. Nearly all of them saw themselves as socialists. They opposed capitalism and its hierarchical and exploitative nature, and like libertarian socialists, individuals, anarchists believed in possession, not property, and that said possession would be marked by occupancy and use. More on that in a minute. There was general, although not unanimous, opposition to wage slavery, and since Thorsmitersaw quotes Tucker at length, let me just remind my audience that Benjamin Tucker was a firm adherent to the labor theory of value. I'll begin by pointing out that Tucker certainly never saw himself as a proprietarian. The term was only coined about 35 years ago. He did, however, refer to himself numerous times as a socialist. He also railed against socialism at times, and to someone unfamiliar with the times and the history and the works of individualist anarchists and anarchism in general, this can be confusing. To understand this, recall that socialism covers a lot of ground. As Tucker put it, and I quote, "The two principles referred to are authority and liberty, and the names of the two schools of socialistic thought which fully and unreservedly represent one or the other of them, respectively, state socialism and anarchism. Whoso knows that these two schools want, and how they propose to get it, understands the socialistic movement. For just as it has been said that there is no halfway house between Rome and reason, so it may be said there is no halfway house between state socialism and anarchism." Note that Tucker is using anarchism as a synonym for socialism. As Adolf Fischer, one of the Haymarket martyrs and contemporaries of Tucker, pointed out, every anarchist is a socialist, but every socialist is not necessarily an anarchist. Anarchists are socialists. I'll let Thorsmitersaw make my point as he continues to quote Benjamin Tucker, defining anarchism. Roll the clip.
Always confining the word anarchist so as to include none but those who deny all external authority over the individual, whether that of the present state or that of some industrial collectivity or commune which the future may produce.
Confining the word anarchist so as to include none but those who deny all external authority over the individual. All external authority. You really can't believe in that and believe in bosses, another word for master. You can't concur with Tucker's definition of anarchism and believe in landlords, another form of master, another form of external authority over the individual. Individualist anarchy would be a market system, but it would not be a capitalist one. It would be a form of market socialism, although a non-state variety. As Tucker argued, the anarchists realized the fact that one class of men are dependent for their living upon their sale of their labor, while another class of men are relieved of the necessity of labor by being legally privileged to sell something that is not labor. And to such a state of things I am as much opposed as anyone. But the minute you remove privilege, every man will be a laborer exchanging with fellow laborers. What anarchistic socialism aims to abolish is usury. It aims to deprive capital of its reward. I should point out that the term usury for Tucker was a synonym for the exploitation of labor and included capitalist profit as well as interest, rent, and royalty. Little wonder that Tucker translated Proudhon's "What is Property" and subscribed to its conclusion that property is theft. I've tended to focus here on Benjamin Tucker, but let me briefly turn to the father of individualist anarchism, Josiah Warren, and his take on wage slavery. As James J. Martin points out in Men Against the State, we find that to men like him, chattel slavery was merely one side of a brutal situation, and although sympathetic with its opponents, refused to take part in the struggle against slavery unless it was extended to a wholesale attack on what they termed wage slavery in the states where Negro slavery no longer existed. In fact, opposition to wage slavery is another common theme among individual anarchists, although not unanimous, as I pointed out. Now, this isn't about excluding anybody from the anarchist movement, or, you can't use the term anarchism. Let me just briefly return to Thorsmitersaw.
Seeking to purge individualist proprietarian anarchists from the title as if they own it or precede us. Well, fuck you assholes. We predate you motherfuckers with Warren and Proudhon, and if you keep insisting on drawing lines and tossing persons out of your usurped word, then I will do the fucking same, or let you just have the damn thing. I have no need of special titles to prove my case.
This seems so childish, really. How could one get so worked up over a subject he knows so little about? He wants to turn history completely on its head and pretend that anarcho-capitalists predate left libertarian anarchists? Really? As I pointed out, the only way that one can possibly do this is from ignorance. In conclusion, individualist anarchists from Josiah Warren to Benjamin Tucker and the rest are firmly in the left libertarian camp. They were opposed to capitalism, saw themselves as socialists, and opposed non-labor forms of income. Far from conceiving themselves as proprietarians, a term hardly 35 years old, individualists like Tucker believed that occupancy and use were the only deeds to property. That is, they believed in possession. The tension that Thorsmitersaw alludes to in his video is not between proprietarians and non-proprietarians, but between libertarian socialists and non-libertarian or authoritarian socialists. I don't believe Thorsmitersaw has ever read any of the individualist anarchists he claims to descend from, and his videos are evidence of that. What's more disturbing is that almost none of his audience is able to discern this fact. As usual, I have lots of great links in the sidebar where you can learn more about this subject and familiarize yourself with the works of individuals like Benjamin Tucker and others, and I hope you'll take the time to learn about these thinkers and what it is they really stood for. Thank you.
Are you with me?
I have a whole imaginary civilization in my head that I like to daydream about.
Are you with me?
I have a friend who thinks he's a dolphin.
Are you with me?
You sitting right there in the chair. You're probably an anarchist. You just don't realize it.